In today's lesson, we are going to go over 2-1 slope-intercept form. The learning target for this topic is I can write and graph linear equations using slope-intercept form. Now, if you recall from middle school, slope-intercept form is a vocab. It is really y equals mx plus b. So our m is going to be our slope. So m stands for our slope, which is also our movement. It's how one point gets to the next point, and how the next point gets to the next point, and so on and so forth. Slope is a constant rate. It means if you have a slope of 2, that means you'll go up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1 forever, or down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1. So we'll discuss that a little bit more. And then the B stands for your y-intercept. And then the x and y are just ordered pairs. So we are going to concentrate on our m's and our b's. Now it says find the slope from 2 ordered pairs. So to find the movement, which is our m, we need to recall the slope formula. So that is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So that is called the slope formula. Now, where do the x's and y's come from? Where does 1s and 2s come from? Well, you need to have 2 ordered pairs. And the ordered pairs are x, y, x, y. That will always be the case. It will never be the opposite. It's always x first, then y. Now 5, 3 is our first ordered pair, so that's where the 1 comes from. The x1, y1, when it's in an ordered pair, stays together. 8, negative 2 is our second ordered pair, so that's where the 2's come from. And from here, we're just going to plug in. Now notice our formula says y2 first, so I'm going to pick my y2. Now I like to put in parentheses whenever I deal with a negative. It's just my preference. The minus sign comes from the formula. Then I have my y1, which we labeled 3, so I'm going to plug that in. Now my division bar comes from the formula. And then I'll do a different color for the x's. So my x2 is actually my 8. That's what I have labeled. The minus sign comes from the formula. And then it says x1, which is next, and that's my 5. So from there, you just simplify. You just put the top into the calculator. So the top says negative 2 minus 3, which in this case is minus 5, or negative 5. And then you put the bottom in the calculator as well. 8 minus 5 is 3. So your slope for this problem is negative 5 over 3. Do not make it a decimal. Do not make it a mixed number. We want a numerator and a denominator because that is going to tell us our rise over run or our fall over run. So keep it as a fraction, even if the numerator is a bigger number. Now, please hit pause and try your turn. When you're done with your turn, make sure that you hit start so you can go over it. So I recommend you always write down the formula, especially while you're just learning. And then labeling. So this is always x, y, always xy. my first ordered pair, my first ordered pair, my second ordered pair, my second ordered pair. So the -2 and the 4 is my first, 6, 3 is my second. And now we're just plugging in. My formula says y2, so I'm going to plug in my 3. My formula says minus, so I'm going to put in minus. My formula says y1, so I'm going to plug in 4. Division bar. My x2 says 6. Now be careful here. My minus comes from the formula, but then look what my x1 is. My x1 is -2, so I have to put that in parentheses. It's just a habit, but I highly recommend it. So then we just simplify. The numerator says 3 minus 4, which in this case is -1. And then my denominator says 6 minus -2, which in this case is 8. So my slope, or my movement, is -1 over 8. Once again, do not make it a decimal, keep it a fraction. Now, with the skills that we just remembered from middle school, we're going to be able to graph a line. So in example 1 from 2.1, it says, what is the graph of y equals 4 over 5x plus 2? The equation is in slope-intercept form. You can use the slope and the y-intercept. So our slope is actually the 4 over 5. And then our y-intercept is the 2. The slope is always the number next to x, and the y-intercept is the number by itself. So to identify the y-intercept, we like to use the letter B. So B, and I say where we begin, is 2, or as an ordered pair, it's 0, 2. So you want to remember that the y-intercept is on the y-axis. So you're just going to locate 0, 2, and it's right here. So you're going to plot a point. Now it says use the slope to plot a second point. Remember, your slope is your movement. So our movement is 4 over 5. Now I'm going to say movement a lot because it's not a location, it's a movement. So I mentioned rise over run. The rise, if it's positive, it goes up. If the top number is negative, it goes down. Our run, if it's positive, it goes right. If it's negative, it goes left. So I like to put those little reminders. So notice that 4 over 5 is positive. So since 4 over 5 is positive, that means we're going to go up 4 spots, and we're going to go right 5 spots. So from the ordered pair, 0, 2, we're going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots. And make sure that your ordered pair is at the crosshairs. Now, it's important to note you can also do the opposite. Instead of going up, you can go left. Instead of going up, you can go down. And then instead of going right, you can go left. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4 spots down, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left. Now make sure that you have some type of straight edge, whether it's a piece of paper or your workbook, something to draw the line through, because that's step 3. You want to make sure that it's as straight as possible. All right, please hit pause, Try this one on your own. I know your graph is not going to be as perfect as the one above, but make sure you draw a straight y, draw a straight x, and then just have your intervals be as even as possible. I like to try to make 5. And don't be afraid to erase, like I just did, to make them even more even. All right, so you want to identify the b, which in this case is -5. So I'm going to need one more spot. You're going to use the slope in this case, which is the number next to x, -3/4. Notice that negative was in the middle. You either move it to the top or you move it to the bottom. You cannot move it to both locations because a negative over a negative becomes a positive, and we don't want that. So my b value is our starting point. So I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots down because that's where 0, -5 is located. And then I have my movement. Negative on top means go down. Positive on the bottom means go to the right. So I'm going to continue my graph. 1, 2, 3 spots down. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4 spots to the right. Now, if you don't like going that way, what's the opposite of going down? It's going up. What's the opposite of going right? It's going left. So we could continue from the beginning, the starting point. 1, 2, 3 up. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. And now remember, use some type of straight edge to draw your linear line. And remember, for linear, the spaces should be equivalent. So you should be able to mark. It's a constant rate. Now for example 2, it's honestly the same thing. You want to find your slope, x1, y1, x2, y2. So it's going to be -2 minus 1, -2 minus 1, and I'm getting that from y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 over, then our x2 is 4, minus comes from the formula, and then 0. So -2 minus 1 is -3. 4 minus 0 is 4. So you can also check that in the graph. If I went down 1 level, 2 levels, 3 levels, that's going down 3. And then I could go right 4. The next thing that you do is find the y-intercept. And remember, the y-intercept is where the line, where the graph crosses the y-axis. So in this point, they already told you it's 0, 1. You could just say the y value, that's okay. And then you put it together. We have y equals mx plus b, which is what they wrote right here. The y stays. Our m, which is our slope, we found to be -3/4. Don't forget the x. And then our b value, which we said was a +1. So the slope of this line and the y-intercept make the equation. So y equals -3/4 x plus 1. Now for your turn, Be careful here. We have 0, -2, and then we have 3, 1. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 3, 0, because we went right 3, and then we did not go up any, so it's 3, 0. So I recommend writing the ordered pairs, just like what we've been doing in the last examples. So x1, y1, x2, y2, and we're going to plug it in. Now I need you to do the formula. I need to see the work. So our y2 in this case is -2 minus 0, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So then we get -2 over -3. And remember, negative divided by a negative is just a positive, so the slope is really 2 over 3. And we can confirm that we went up 2 levels, and then we went right 3 levels. So 2 over 3 is our slope. So then we have 2 over 3, which is our slope. Now the next point is our y-intercept. So where does my orange line cross the y? It crosses at 0, -2. Or you can just say b equals -2. And then all you have to do is plug it into the formula. Remember that the y stays put and the x stays put. So the only thing you have to plug in is the m, which is 2/3. And then in this case, our b value is a -2. So make sure that you put -2. So then that is the equation of the graph given.